Greetings and salutations all. Hi, it's Anderson here once again, and today I'm going to be doing something I don't usually do. I'm going to be throwing in my 2 cents on a controversy that's been going around YouTube. As you may or may not know, the YouTuber known as Zoe Sugg, aka Zoella, has recently come out with a book that has just gone on onto the market. It's called Girl Online. It's a basic YA story about a girl who does blogs and she falls in love with a boy and she goes through hardships. Not something that I would generally find myself interested in, but then again, I don't really think I'm the target audience for this particular story. At first, the book was very well received. It apparently outsold what Harry Potter did its first weekend and a lot of other very big books. And it was received well from people, readers, and critics alike at first. But then suddenly, it got leaked out that Zoella used a ghostwriter while writing the book. According to her, she did come up with the characters and the basic plotline herself, but a ghostwriter actually wrote out the whole story for her. Now, a lot of people are outraged about this. They feel they were lied to, they feel deceived, and they can't believe she would do something like this. And me personally, I say, well, she used a ghostwriter? No shit. I have to say that I personally don't get the level of outrage that's over this situation. I mean, ghostwriters have been used by celebrities and people, and actually real authors have used ghostwriters, ever since, books have come out. Good example would be James Patterson. I mean, you guys know that he doesn't really write his own books anymore. I mean, I guess he comes up with the basic plot line, and then he has a group of people that he says, write this book for me. They're just like, okay, boss, write it. And they write it up for him, and he puts his name on it, and it sells. Also, William Shatner came out with a series of books called Tech Wars. Yes, apparently it's about a futuristic, came out in the 80s, so it was basically about, the dangers of drugs. It was a futuristic sci-fi drug war type novel series, and William Shatner had his name all over it, and guess what? Completely ghost-written. I don't even think he came up with the basic plotline himself. But they put William Shatner's name on it because they know if they put Captain Kirk's name on a sci-fi book, it's going to sell. Now, I know a lot of people aren't so worked up about the whole ghostwriting thing. I think most people know, what I just said about, ghostwriting in general. So the main point that people seem to be, the most upset about is they feel that Zoella lied to them. They feel that she purposely deceived people, making them think that she, wrote this book all by herself from scratch, and, the publishers, she sent it off to the publishers, or the publishers came to her and said, would you write a book for her? She said, sure, and she wrote it, not knowing that, or, not telling anybody that there was a ghostwriter involved. Well, let me tell you a little bit of the truth here. Let me give you a little bit of perspective. In order to do this, Zoella had to write a contract. Now, I wasn't there, but I do know how these things work. Whenever a major publisher wants to publish a book with somebody, the author or whoever's name on it has to sign a contract. Unless we're talking about independent publishing here, but that's a completely different thing. I'll get into that another time. The point I'm trying to make is, Zoella, she had to sign a contract to do that. Now, what that means is that she had to do things not exactly her way, but she had to do things the publisher's way. Now, when somebody publishes a book through a major publisher, it's not the author that makes up the marketing strategy, it's the publisher. So I'm sure the publisher told her how she should conduct herself when she, talks about her book, either on her own videos or out in public. And I guarantee you, a part of their marketing strategy was, look, don't tell them that a ghostwriter is writing this for you. As far as the public is concerned, you are solely responsible for this story. And of course, she had to go along with that because she was under contract. Now, hold on a minute. I kind of feel the heat coming through the screen. I can kind of feel that you're still upset because you still feel that you're deceived, whether it's by her or the publisher. Well, that's a perfectly legitimate feeling. I can understand why you would think that, but let me ask you this thing. If you had known that it was a ghostwriter from day one, if you had known that, Zoella is just here to advertise it, put her name on it so it'll sell more, and but it was actually somebody else who did most of the actual work here, would you have been so willing to go out and buy it? I don't think so. Celebrities put their names on things to advertise them all the time. You see this, not just with books. You see it with colognes, perfumes. You see it with, kitchen utensils, kitchen products. I mean, do you honestly think Britney Spears was in a lab somewhere cooking up a perfume so that, she could sell it as her own perfume? Or do you think maybe, a generic company just came up with the perfume by themselves in a lab, and then somebody went to Britney Spears and say, "Hey, if you endorse this perfume for us and put your name on it, we'll give you X amount of dollars." Okay, yeah, I'm betting my money on the second one as well. Another thing you need to keep in mind is when somebody publishes a book through a major publisher, the author is not the only one who has a say in what happens in the story or how the story is written. Now, I'm not going to get too much into the ins and outs of publishing, but let me give you a brief summary of it. An author sends the manuscript to a publisher. If the publisher says, yes, we want to buy it, they go, okay, cool. And the author has to sign a contract. He or she may get an advance, depending on how much the publisher will think the book will sell. But the thing is, that book no longer really belongs to the author. It belongs to the publisher. And the publisher is allowed to make any changes to it that they see fit. The author has really no say in what the cover is, what's on the cover. A lot of the times, the publisher will change the title, they'll change characters, they'll change tone, they might change the whole genre. They might, make it so that it's a dystopian novel rather than a just basic science fiction novel. Now, the reason why publishers do this is because they want to make money selling books. And that's why they had a ghostwriter write Zoella's book for her, is because they wanted to make money. And, if Zoella had written it herself, I mean, it probably would have taken a long time. I mean, I know basically who she is. She's a beauty guru, and she does, hauls and things like that. I went through her videos. I haven't watched all of them because that would take way too long. But basically, as far as I can tell, she has never expressed any interest in being a type of writer of any kind. She's never even done a book review or even a book haul. So, I mean, that's another reason why I can't believe everybody's shocked that she would use a ghostwriter. But, long story short, she's not really a novelist. I know she has a blog, so she does write, but she's not really a novelist. She's just somebody they use their name and her face to market the book. And they did this because they want to make money selling books. And if they don't make money selling books, well, then they can't publish, the books that become the Harry Potters and the Hunger Games, from the authors that nobody knows about. Now, I am an author myself, and as a lot of you know, but some of you might be wondering, well, he's doing all this to justify publishing and all that stuff. How much of his books has he written himself? Well, in the interest of transparency, I will go ahead and explain to what extent my books are written and what involvement other people had in producing my books. Now, as far as the writing goes, the text, and the whole entire manuscript itself, I did that all myself. Not trying to brag, just like I said, in the interest of transparency, I'm saying that I completely wrote out the manuscripts to my books myself. Now, of course, I did have somebody else edit it for me. When I wrote, volume 1 here, when I wrote this one, I actually sent this one off to a professional publisher to have them do the line editing for it. Line editing is basically, looking at all the sentences, making sure I use the right your, and I'm, grammatically correct and all that stuff. As a side note, to any aspiring novelists out there who want to write their own books, don't ever send it off to a professional editor and have them send you back the script after they've edited it. I did that with volume 1, and I learned the hard way. Don't do that. If you want somebody, of course, you have to get somebody to edit your book, but give it to somebody you trust, somebody you know. You're much better off giving it to, your friend that says, oh, yeah, I can, edit a book, better than anybody, and, I never miss a thing and all that stuff. you're better off giving your manuscript to that guy rather than sending it off to a professional, because at least A, that guy will probably do it for free, B, you'll know him, and you'll be able to correct his mistakes. But in any chance, you always need somebody to edit it for you, and Volume 1, I did a professional. Now, when I did Volume 2, Volume 2, this one, I actually had my father edit it, and he did a much better job than the professional did. Of course, after, my father goes through it, then I go through it myself again. That's another thing you want to make sure you do. Went through the editing myself, and even with the extra pair of eyes, it's very difficult to find all the errors. But as far as the editing goes, my father now does that, and then I follow up with him on that. Now, as some of you who have watched my videos know, I cannot draw. So obviously, I did not draw this cover. I did not draw any of the covers on my books. I did not Photoshop them either. I am no artist myself. Now, I did come up with the basic concepts. I did come up with the concept of having the main character right there, and their patron in the background, and then a background that's appropriate to the story. I did come up with that main concept. I basically tell them how I want it. I create one of my little stick figure drawings of how I want the concept, and I send it off to them, and then they go, okay, and then they send me back a few different renditions of it, and I say, that one. Okay, now for Volume 3, as you can see, Volume 3 is a lot different from the first two books. Yes, different artists with it, but it was basically done the same way. I sent her basically what I want, showed her the first two book covers, told her how to do it, and she did all this with Photoshop rather than draw it out herself. But I thought it was pretty good. And if Volume 3 ends up selling a lot of books, in the millions, I'm gonna owe her some more money for doing this. But basically, that's how that works. So yeah, as far as the covers, designing the covers goes, yeah, I have to pay somebody to do those for me. And that is my 2 cents on the whole ghostwriting thing. Hope you enjoyed that. So if you have anything, comments below, as always, or I also have my pertinent contact information below in the abyss, and I'll also have a couple of the articles that are on this particular subject, just so you can, have a little bit more background if you need to it. And please comment, rate, subscribe. You know the drill. And until next time, this is I.S. Anderson telling everybody, make your lives grand and have a good day. Thank you very much.